Michael Gove heralds Green Brexit era as farmers to be released from EU bureaucracy. The new Environment Secretary has said leaving the European Union, EU, provides a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to reform farming, fisheries and land management in his first keynote speech since replacing fellow Brexiteer Andrea Leeson after the general election. Mr. Gove told an audience of environmental and countryside organisations that Brexit gives scope for Britain to be a global leader in green policy. Many of the laws on the environment currently come from Brussels, from agricultural policy and farming subsidies, to air pollution limits, bathing water quality, wildlife protection and climate action such as energy efficiency standards. Leaving the EU gives us a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to reform how we manage agriculture and fisheries. Michael Gove. Environmentalists have raised fears over the fate of EU regulation on the environment, amid calls in some quarters to cut red tape on everything from energy efficiency to protecting habitats. They have warned that process of transferring rules to UK law must not weaken them. But Mr. Gove will move to reassure them Brexit will be a force for good. Speaking at WWF's Living Planet Centre in Woking, he will say, leaving the EU gives us a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to reform how we manage agriculture and fisheries, how we care for our land, our rivers and our seas, how we recast our ambition for our country's environment, and the planet. In short, it means delivering a green Brexit. They roam freely and have a natural diet, meaning their eggs and meat are of a higher arterial content. He also revealed the UK will lift restrictions imposed on the UK by the EU through the Central Agricultural Policy. However, farmers will have to respect the environment to get equivalent subsidies without the bureaucracy. Mr. Gove acknowledged the damage done to the UK and global environment in the past. The former Education Secretary used to call himself a shy environmentalist, but since becoming head of DEFRA, he describes himself as an outright environmentalist. He added, in recent decades we have lost green space, cut down trees, sacrificed meadow and heath land, polluted our earth, air and water, placed species in danger and run down the renewable resources from fish to soil on which our future depends. And at the same time, across the globe, we've seen climate change threaten both fragile natural habitats and developing human societies. We've allowed extractive and exploitative political systems to lay waste to natural resources, and we've placed species of plants and animals in new and mortal danger while gambling with the future health of the whole world. He will describe himself as an environmentalist because he cares about his fellow animals, draws inspiration from nature and finds its beauty important, but also because of hard calculation of the need to protect the natural world or face disaster. And he will say Brexit will mean taking back control of environmental policy. We now have an historic opportunity to review our policies on agriculture, land use, biodiversity, woodlands, marine conservation, fisheries, pesticide licensing, chemical regulation, animal welfare, habitat management, waste, water purity, air quality and so much more. Informed by rigorous scientific analysis, we can develop global gold standard policies on pesticides and chemicals, habitat management and biodiversity, animal welfare and biosecurity, soil protection and river management and so many other areas. Mr. Gove has promised a new era for fishing and farming. Without the EU's bureaucracy, he will also say a government of global Britain should not just lead on security or trade but also champion sustainable development, be a leader in environmental science and an innovator in clean, green growth. And Mr. Gove will add it should uphold its pledge to hand over the environment to the next generation in a better condition than it is now. Mr. Gove's speech comes after he told the Commons that UK policy on neonicotinoid pesticides, which have been linked with bee declines, will follow existing EU protections and will be enhanced in line with the science. FUFU President Merrick Raymond said he was encouraged by Mr Gove's pledges. Rebecca Newsom, policy advisor at Greenpeace UK, said Mr Gove had made a number of promising statements about reforming farm subsidies, enhancing nature and looking after bees. The question is whether and how these words will turn into actual government policy, she said. For decades, it's EU environmental law that has cleaned up our beaches, banned dangerous chemicals and held Gove's own department to account for its failure to tackle illegal air pollution. Without the bedrock of these regulations and an authority to enforce them, a dirty Brexit will be far more likely than a green one. National Farmers Union, NFU, President Merrick Raymond, who Mr Gove praised for his help, said, as the Secretary of State has said, there are very good reasons to provide support for agriculture. We deliver for the well-being of the nation, providing a traceable, safe and affordable domestic supply of food, to some of the highest standards in the world and which the public trusts. We deliver for the environment, managing and maintaining 70% of the landscape, which remains feasible only as long as farmers run viable businesses, and we deliver for our economy, providing jobs and driving growth in rural communities. We provide the raw materials for a domestic food industry that employs 3.8 million people and which, as the UK's largest manufacturing sector, generates £109 billion in value for the UK economy. This is why a future agricultural policy must be comprehensive in its range, comprising measures for protecting the environment, improving productivity and managing volatility. The NFU set out its vision for a new domestic agricultural policy in March, and we share the Secretary of State's view that we should seek a bold and ambitious policy once we have left the EU. It is important that we see a broad and innovative range of measures to ensure farmers continue to deliver all the benefits for our well-being, for our economy and for our environment that the country enjoys. Such a policy needs to be comprehensive, providing support to farmers not just for environmental work, but also to manage risk and volatility, and to improve productivity and resilience among farming businesses. It needs to be properly resourced, maintaining current levels of public investment in UK agriculture so that the industry remains competitive. And it needs to be planned, with a sufficient implementation period to allow farmers to adjust to a new system, ensuring certainty and stability for farm businesses. Thanks for watching. Please like, share and don't forget to subscribe English News Hub for new excited videos.